Happy New Year, folks. As I haven't done anything in a while, it's time to knock the rust off. So, today's Monday media review is going to be on a documentary. And it's a documentary of a very important fellow in world history, John Moses Browning. And as you can see from the link below, it is available on Tubi for free, and I do highly recommend it. And because I'm a little bit forgetful, I had to go and look it up. It is called American Gunmaker, the John M. Browning story. It's from 1991, and it runs about 57 minutes. Those of you who float around my age, and obviously older, will remember Fess Parker, Davy Crockett, in the old Disney shows. He's the guy who hosts and narrates the show, and it's very informative. There's quite a bit about, at the very beginning, there's a little bit about Jonathan Browning, John Moses Browning's father, and his personal struggles, his impact on young John Mose, as he called him. There's obviously a great deal of discussion of the various firearms that John Browning created, to the point that it becomes clear towards the end that if you took every other American gun designer and maker, smashed them all together into one person, you would almost equal John Browning. Now, to be fair, this was made in 1991. However, the production value is very good. They have quite a lot of period stills, some really good period piece reenactment video, one absolutely hilarious little clip of an episode from John Moses Browning's early life, his first firearm, related to his first firearm. There's quite a bit of talk about the impact that Browning had, both in the industry itself and in the wider world. Those of you who have ever heard of the 1911, the Bar, or the Browning High Power, my personal favorite pistol, and recently renovated, I guess, design-wise by FN, into a new high power. The one, of course, that I like is the aforementioned, multiply mentioned, Inglis high power, which was actually created in Canada by, well, wasn't created, obviously, it was manufactured in Canada by the Inglis Corporation, which, up until it was absorbed by, I believe, General Electric, though I may have that wrong, was a manufacturer of home appliances, dishwashers, stoves, things of that nature, which, personally, I think it's absolutely hilarious that a Canadian company known for making household appliances once contributed to the single most important war effort in the 20th century by creating by producing the FN high power, or the Browning high power. Now, that is extremely short, and obviously I want to vamp for a little bit of time, so I will ask you to shill this video out to your friends and family. Anyone who's interested in guns, absolutely recommend them this documentary. As I said, it's only an hour long, so it's not super in-depth, though it is surprisingly in-depth for something as short as it is. The really beautiful footage from the 90s of the period stuff is amazingly well done. The production value was quite high. There's a lot of background on John Browning himself, as I said. Also, if you would be so kind, like, share, subscribe, absolutely comment. Do please kindly check out my Rumble channel, which this video will be synchronized to. shortly after it's uploaded to YouTube. In fact, if you want to follow me on Rumble, by all means do so. If you follow me exclusively on Rumble, please let me know. I am trying to determine if YouTube is really worth my time investment versus what I can say and what I can't say. For example, this particular topic, I suspect, might not be 100% welcome, by various people at YouTube, behind the scenes at YouTube. Let's see. On a personal note, I've now discovered that I need to add the Buffalo Bill Cody Firearms Museum to my list of places I intend to visit, because they have some very rare prototypes, patent prototypes, things of that nature from Browning, who, while I knew he was somewhat prolific, I had no idea the level of prolificity? Prolification? I'm not even sure what word that would be. But he's repeatedly called a genius in the documentary, and in terms of the classical meaning of that word, someone who creates, he absolutely deserves that title. Again, there's you do have to be aware while you're watching it that you are watching a historical document about a historical figure. I mean, 1991 is 32 years ago. I was still in high school. In fact, if I recall correctly, I was about 15 when this would have been released. I think had I watched it at the time, I would have been very interested and would have thoroughly enjoyed it. Let me see. There's really no concern about... Oh, excuse me. There's really no concern about spoilers for this, because, obviously. Though, a fact that a lot of people may not be aware of is Jonathan and John M. Browning's connection to the Mormon faith. I had no idea. But it did play a significant part in definitely Jonathan Browning's life, and a very significant part in John M. Browning's life, as had his father not converted, it's quite possible that John Moses, might not have ever been born. This is obviously going to be much more the firearm business history sort of focus, and that's actually quite interesting in and of itself, at least to me. The discussion of John Moses Browning's relationship, and from here on out, if I do say John Browning, I'm most likely talking about John Moses Browning. But the relationship that John Moses Browning had with Winchester, how that flourished, how that came about, how it flourished, and how it ended up ending, was quite interesting. The piece about the machine gun that he created, if I recall correctly, the M2 is also known as the Madus. The fact that this was a Colt-produced, Browning-created design wasn't something I was aware of. And when I will avoid one spoiler here, because for people who are interested in firearms, the fire to failure rate on that particular piece of equipment is phenomenal. It's just mind-bogglingly high. And the fact that after the military testing, Browning himself tested it again, and what resulted from that, it's staggeringly impressive. Let me see. I'm just hitting 10 minutes, so I'm kind of at the point where I can feel comfortable ending this. But for me personally, firearms are something I'm interested in, but not able to own. At least not as freely as, say, an American, given that I live in Canada. Though I have always had an interest in weaponry. I do build wooden weapons. I do intend to eventually build a Taiaha, for example. I need to get a hold of a copy of one so that I can have something to copy. For those of you who don't know, a Taiaha is a Maori wooden weapon that essentially has what amounts to blades on it. Wooden blades. So I'm guessing I'd need a very hard wood for that. I don't know if hickory would necessarily do the job, but I'm willing to chance it. But just to return to the documentary itself, rather than things I plan to do in the future, the sheer volume of designs that Browning produced over the course of his lifetime is amazing. As I said, I had no idea of it, and having learned about it, it's a little flabbergasting, to be honest. I would not have expected the level of creativity that he had. Of course, my general interest tends to be more on the other side of the Cold War, with AKs, Kalashnikovs, things like that. But with that personal connection to the English thing, it's very enlightening and fulfilling to, or enriching rather, to have discovered this particular documentary. And completely by chance, when I was simply flicking through Tubi looking for something random to watch, happened to put in the search term firearms, and discovered this particular documentary. Just to give the technical critique, which I'm not very good at. I'm more of a pop culture guy when it comes to criticism. But to critique this, I would say that it is very well written, extremely well produced. The narrator, host Fess Parker, bit of a blast from the past for me. I hadn't seen him in anything since probably the old Davy Crockett movies, which I haven't seen probably in 30 or more years. As far as the technical information that is provided, it does seem to be very well researched. There is a wonderful section at the end if you're anything interested in any sort of craftsmanship at all. There's a great section at the end where they show the engravers at Liège in Belgium, who still produce a, I suppose the term would be boutique firearm, in the Browning line. The Browning, I believe it's called a high grade, which, once the engravers are done their work, is an astonishingly beautiful gun. But other than that, I don't really have a lot to say. Documentaries are not my forte. But on a recommendation level, or an out of 10 level, I think I would honestly have to give this at least an 8. Now, again, I'm not a huge fan of documentaries. I do find the material very, very engaging. But I would say, on the whole, that this is, yeah, an 8 out of 10 for sure. Especially for the quality of the production. And definitely for the depth of information they give you for background and effect. The effect of Browning in terms of the world theater or on the world stage is probably damn near immeasurable. If I recall correctly, they quote Hermann Goering, or Goring, at one point, who said that if the Luftwaffe had had the Browning machine gun, that the Battle of Britain would have gone the other way. It's pretty big praise. In any case, folks, I'm coming up on 60 minutes, so I am going to let this end here. As always, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you continue to have good days, and in fact, a good new year. Other than that, as always, rise and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.